Hey everyone, Weebly Expert here. Today I'll be going over how to install the dynamic background add-on from Luminous themes into your Weebly website. So as you can see, I downloaded the dynamic background.zip and I've extracted it into this folder. Now inside the folder you'll see a bunch of other folders with theme names. So click on the theme that you're using, or the folder you're using. So I'm using the Elixir theme, so I'm going to click on Elixir. And inside of this folder you'll see two files. So this dynamic background.txt, this corresponds to the dynamic background default tall header page, and this dynamic background full.txt, this is responsible for the full screen version. Now go into Weebly, into your Weebly editor, edit the site, click on theme, and click on edit HTML/CSS. Now next to header type, you'll see a little plus arrow, or plus sign. Click on new header type, and type in dynamic background.htmlxo, and then create another one and type in dynamic background full. Now, as you might have guessed, we created both of these header types for these two files. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take the code out of each one of these files and put it in their corresponding header types. So if you're in Windows, you can just double click on this and it should open it up in Notepad. But if you're in Mac, you'll want to open it up with Notes. Import Notes. There we go. Now just select all the code and copy it, Control C, or Command C if you're on Mac, and paste it into the dynamic background.html header type. So just to recap, we essentially opened up the dynamic background.txt in a note text editor. We copied all this code and we pasted it into the dynamic background.html header type. Now click on the dynamic background full header type, and we'll do the exact same thing. We'll open up this file in Notes, import Notes, just like so. We'll select all the code, just do Command A, Control C, and we will paste it into the dynamic background full header type. There we go. Now make sure to save. Click the blue save button. Let's wait for it to load. There we go. Now go to Pages and create a page. I'm going to call this page dynamic background. And to pretty much put the add-on into the page, go to header type and select dynamic background. What this does is it'll essentially turn your page into the dynamic tall header page. Now as you can see here, we have the dynamic background effect, but the color isn't changing, and that's alright. You won't see the color change in the editor. Let me just type something in here. If you publish a site, and if you go to dynamic background, you'll see that it does change and animate in the live version of the website, but it doesn't do the same effect in the editor mode due to Weebly's limitations. Now create another page. I'm just going to call this the dynamic full screen, and for header type, select the dynamic background full. Click on done. There we go. And we'll do the same thing. Screen version. Click on publish. And there we go. Now, if you stumble into any issues or problems, make sure you just refresh the page. Refreshing usually helps. The Weebly editor has a few bugs in it, and refreshing it pretty much clears everything up. But if you're still having trouble, make sure you contact Luminous Themes through their help support portal, and they'll reach out to you. Now, we finished the installation process. You've now successfully installed the dynamic background add-on into your Weebly website. Now what I'll be doing is showing you how you can change the colors. So, as you can see, the colors are all, the default ones are, this is bluish red gradient that switches over to purple. To change the colors, go back to the theme tab, click on the edit HTML/CSS button. And click on, let's say you want to change the colors for the dynamic background. You'll click on its header type that you created, and scroll down all the way to this section right here. It says changing the gradient background. Now it kind of tells you what to do in this little comment, but your focus should be right in here, this background line. Unfortunately, Weebly doesn't let you do this kind of stuff in the editor right now, so that's probably why they had to resort to this method. But they did a good job with pointing out the line you have to edit. Now, right in here, you'll see 4 of these codes. These codes that are followed or have a pound sign before them. These are hex codes. Many of you are familiar with them, and they represent the colors that are in the gradient. So it'll take a few bit of experimenting, but essentially, if you go to if you Google hex code color generator, you'll see a few links pop up, color pickers, and this is a nice one. This is w3school.com. Now, let's say I want this. I want an orange kind of color. There we go. And you can choose the shade, and then you can copy the code right here. You can see it resembles the codes you saw. Just copy it and paste it in for one of these. Make sure you don't paste and delete the comment or the comma accidentally. And now, let's say that that's my first color. My second color will be, and you really have to experiment. There really isn't any set way of choosing colors. These gradients, the best way to do them is just to experiment with them and see what looks nicer. I'll put the screen right over here. Like I said, make sure you don't accidentally delete the commas because that'll just make everything go haywire. And then go back to the color picker, and then I want some purple. Do the same thing. Place this, and then let's go for some dark blue. Copy this and paste it right in here. Okay, so now save it. And you can usually see the preview below, but it wasn't changing because I had it set to the full screen, not the dynamic. We were editing the dynamic background, but if you click on it, see the color essentially changed. And now if you go to edit HTML-CSS, you can see it changing color. This is a dynamic background .html page that we changed, and as you're editing, you can usually monitor the colors, and this actually looks really nice. Wow, a watermelon sort of theme. But as you mess around with these, you can usually see the live preview. Like I said, it wasn't really changing when I was doing it the first time because I had it set to the full screen and we were editing the just this, so that's why. But now let's go to the dynamic full screen. Let's do the same thing. Let's change this color gradient. Edit HTML CSS. And you can see the animation change in this live preview because this live preview is pretty much like the actual version of the site. So you can see it's the same exact default sort of default colors. Go to the dynamic background full.html and do the exact same thing. So you can see this line of code. We'll go back to the color picker and let's start off with some dark green. Maybe not that dark. Let's copy this, go back to Weebly, replace this first, hashtag code, this first hex code, with the first value. Then we want some, I don't know, something different. Let's go some light blue. Make sure you copy with a pound sign. You don't want to just copy the numbers. Replace the second value with them. Get some purple. Replace the third value. And if you look below into the live preview of the website, you can see it's actually changing as I plug these values in, which is quite cool. And let's go with some some of you may even know hex values by heart. If you do, that's amazing. You save a lot of time. You don't have to look up a generator. There we go. And so as you can see, we successfully modified the full screen version dynamic background, and it gives you this really nice sort of effect, this shifting effect. Well, that's it. That's the end of the tutorial. I hope this was helpful. Make sure to check out my other tutorials as well. I cover a wide variety of Weebly subjects. And if you have any questions about this, please contact Luminous teams directly. They know much more about this than me. But yeah, thank you for watching. Have a great day.